New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern plans to step down next month. She's announced that she will not be seeking re-election when her term ends in February. Ardern believes that she no longer has what it takes to deliver on her mandate, but she's expressed hope that the New Zealand Labour Party would win in the upcoming general elections in October. The 42-year-old was widely praised for her handling of the COVID-19 at the height of the pandemic.
This summer I had hoped to find a way to prepare not just for another year, but another term, because that is what this year requires. I have not been able to do that. And so today I am announcing that I will not be seeking re-election, and that my term as Prime Minister will conclude no later than the 7th of February. This has been the most fulfilling 5.5 years of my life, but it has also had its challenges. I know what this job takes, and I know that I no longer have enough in the tank to do it justice. It's that simple.
Well, let's get some reaction to this decision now, and we speak to Dr. Harlan Cloete, expert in governance systems and particularly in the public sector. He joins us via the virtual platform. Dr. Cloete, thank you very much for your time. That decision by Jacinda Ardern, who says, I no longer have enough in my tank. How many leaders around the world can we remember who have taken such a decision?
Good morning, Colin, and good morning to the viewers as well. You know that listening again to that interview almost drove me to tears. I think it takes a lot of courage, and I have been a long admirer of the Prime Minister. She's an incredible woman who has done a lot for that country, and she has really, with the enthusiasm, I think, of youth, really turned that office around about what political leadership looks like. Your question on how many leaders, I know very little. I think if you look at if we bring that back home, Nelson Mandela, when he became president in '94, was very clear you will only serve one term as the president. Now, ever since then, all our presidents have not completed the 2 terms, but that was by default. And so, yes, the track record of leaders saying, I don't have enough in the tank. I am no longer enthusiastic about it. That is really admirable.
And I'm looking at her age, Dr. Cloete. At 42 years, I am reminded of leaders around the continent of Africa. And I think to myself, what in the world have we just experienced here? Someone tweeted on the back of this decision and said, to know when to stop is a gift. Is that something that you think is completely lost, particularly on the continent of Africa? I know I may get criticism to say there are international examples as well of very bad apples. Yeah, quite correct. I mean, I can think of someone like Putin, who has gone but come back. That's a bad apple internationally. So let's focus the attention, though, on the continent. What lessons does Jacinda Ardern give for leaders here in Africa?
I think if we look at Africa, South Africa in particular, there's this thing called career politicians. And so people step into politics and it becomes a career. And so I must hold on to this position of privilege and power for as long as I can. If we look at the political killings that we witnessed in the last couple of years, the stakes are very high. But what leaders bring to office is sometimes there's a mismatch there for me. And so, because of career politicians, politicians almost become gatekeepers to prevent new people coming in with new ideas. In the developed world, people get into politics that normally come from the business sector or from the academia. I think if we look at the South African model, a lot of times it is the first step into the middle class politics. And once you get to that area of that quality of life or medical aid, and all the benefits that come with it, you would want to hold on to this for as long as possible. And so there's a great lesson to learn there. I mean, I can't imagine the Prime Minister going now to retire. She's only 42. She still has so much to give. And so she'll probably go into business or into academia, but we do not have a good track record in South Africa and in Africa in terms of younger people getting into politics.
I think of, and I'm going to be cynical here, I think of the retirees that sit in our parliament. They know very well that they are grandmothers and grandfathers, but they insist on staying there. Why is that?
Like I said, I think it's power, it's privilege, it's the benefits that comes with that position. If we look at the public servants are supposed to retire at 65, but the politician can continue till about 80. Look at Joe Biden in America. I think he's one of the oldest presidents in the world at 80. And so it's power, it's privilege, it's holding on, it's not wanting to let go of this position of influence and respect that I have. It's the freebies, it's the patronage, it's all that comes with this position that you hold. And because, like I said, the stakes are so high, people want to hold on to this for as long as possible because it gives them a sense of meaning and contribution. And in my view, we really should, I'm not saying that there's no role for older people to play in society, but our body politic needs younger people with enthusiasm to get on with the challenges of building this country.
And you've touched on it, Dr. Cloete, because I remember not so long ago, there was the ANC elective conference and the many interviews that we have had. But the difficulty, in fact, one of the contenders spoke about how difficult it was having to vocalize the fact that the old need to make way for the younger ones. But perhaps that's a discussion within political parties. Let's take this out of the organizations, political organizations now, and perhaps are we, ordinary citizens, to blame for constantly voting such people back into power when we can clearly see that there are no fresh ideas here?
Look, if you look at the opposition benches, Julius Malema is relatively young. The DA's leader is relatively young. So in terms of our body politic, we have a number. Musi Mayamani is a young leader. And so I think what the ANC talked about is a generational mix, and so people need to know when it is time to let go. When is it time to say, I've been a cabinet minister since 1994. Maybe it's time to step down and give other young people an opportunity, because surely you have a substantial pension, etc. You're not going to be poorer for this. But I think that there are other factors, like I said, that I keep saying: power, privilege, ego, position, bodyguards, freebies, etc. That I think influences decision making. Surely by now we should have had younger leaders, younger cabinet ministers. I think if you look at Ronald Lamola, the Minister of Justice, brings a little bit of youthful energy to the position, and that is what I liked about the New Zealand Prime Minister. And I use this in my workshops. If you Google it, you'll see that she took on a 2-minute challenge of what her office has done. And so she brought innovation and new ideas and youthful energy to the portfolio. If you look at some of our ministers, it is clear for everybody to see that there's no energy left in the tank, but yet they continue. And so we need new ideas, innovative ideas, younger people to come and step up to the plate and to say, here's our opportunity to play a contribution to help build society.
Yeah, and I look back, Professor or Dr. Cloete, as we conclude our conversation, I look back at the history, her track record of the 6 years that she's been in office. At the height of COVID-19, she is credited as having led her country, quote unquote, with empathy. Again, question I ask is, how many leaders around the world can be credited with that? Instead, in this country, we were bombarded with problems of people wanting to help themselves with the very monies that are supposed to help people to stop them from dying.
Yeah. I mean, that for me was the most disheartening thing about how we've handled the COVID crisis, where people saw opportunity to be corrupt within the COVID crisis. And certainly with her, and I'm sure she must have an amazing team. You know, she's an inspirational leader, you know, giving that speech, announcing it. You could see the human face coming through. And so in this world where politicians are often tainted as being corrupt and being overstaying their welcome, you know, she certainly leaves her mark as a person who has governed ethically, with integrity, although her government popularity has dwindled to the favor of the Conservatives over the last year or so. I think she leaves an amazing legacy of what youthful energy and a great team. I'm sure she has a great team working with her, because I also don't believe in one person can make all that difference. It's the inspirational leader that inspires the team and the country by leading by example. You know, there is no better antidote for corruption than leading by example, by modeling, by leading. I remember how she handled that crisis in Christchurch, I think, you know, where she, her empathy came so through when she went to sympathize with the families of the Muslims. And so she remains, for me, one of the most outstanding leaders of our time.
Dr. Harlan Cloete, let me thank you very much for your time, a governance systems specialist. Thanks indeed for that insight.